Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Designated Designer, a podcast about design where curiosity is the compass, creativity lights the way, and transformation is just part of the trip. I'm your host, Jennifer Stank, your brand spirit guide for this wild, wonderful ride where together we will navigate our creative existence in today's modern and mechanical world. Today, I have a very special guest for you guys. I had the pleasure of working with this client on some trailer graphics, and I'm very excited to talk about that entire experience. They also have a ton of experience in their industry and just being a business owner themselves. So I have the pleasure of introducing the first designer client episode of The Designated Designer, and today we have Dan Ehlman. Did I say that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Not many people get that right, but you got it. Nailed it.
Yes, awesome. Well, welcome, Dan. I'm super excited to have Dan on the show, and I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, hi. Thank you, Jen, for having me here. When we connected, when I first met, I knew you had all the energy in the world, so then it just led to today. So my business is basically junk removal. I basically take the burden and stress off of everyone going through hard times, house clean outs, situations where insurances are going to can you, everything down to just people just want to get rid of stuff. So the stories happen. People have their reasons. Everyone's kind of like a little bit shy to say I need a junk removal guy, but we do decluttering, stuff like that. It's not all junk, but it just seems to be the industry standard for what we do. So I'm trying to elevate that so it's not like some guy with a busted up truck and 3 teeth coming to collect your stuff either. So it's really a positive service, and I want to promote that with obviously with me and my graphic design background and meeting Jen and going, okay, here's the reins. I can hand this over to her because I can trust that she's going to get me where I want to go, and she's not going to fight me on a lot of stuff. And that made me connect with Jen, early on. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your graphic design background. Like, where did the shift happen between the history and graphic design and then eventually this professional polish on junk removal?
yeah, I think it's almost like every person who spent a lot of years in the corporate world and they're kind of just they had enough and they just want to find something that makes them happy. So I worked for a ladies swimwear company in the US for 22 and a half years. It was family ran and owned. It's now being taken over by the kids, which in the nicest way possible. I think they're burning it down now. So it's okay that we're out because I need to get out anyway. When you're working for a place for a long period of time, they just don't take your creativity, they don't take your experience, they don't appreciate you for what you're really good at, and that's really what hurts a lot of people in the business, is any business that you're in. So you want to feel appreciated and all that stuff like that. And me as a person, I don't think it matters what I do. I'm going to give it my all. So whether I'm doing graphic design, whether I'm doing junk removal, whether I'm helping someone and people like me for what I do, whatever I do. So this helps me clean up the area, hit an area where people don't want to do or can't do. Either you're old and you can't lift heavy things, or you don't have the manpower or the trucks or the trailers to kind of get things done. We're not tied to stuff either. So when you have like a house clean out and you're personal, like you're there for 2 weeks just reminiscing all your family things when things happen. And I know it's sad, but we're not connected to that stuff. We kind of run through it and go, okay, here's these things are donatable. This stuff no one's going to take, no one can take. It's going to have to go to trash, recycle, or donation or whatever. So we kind of filter it very quickly. And then when people are in the end, they're kind of just relieved because they didn't have to go through that process. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting because for me, coming from a graphic design background and then eventually ending up in this junk removal industry, it's really interesting to hear the way that you talk about your business. Because to me, as a graphic designer, I spend so much of my time on organization. I'm always making sure that all of the colors are spec'd. I'm making sure that all the files are in the correct folder. I'm very particular about my folder structure and folder organization and all that kind of stuff. And to kind of see that transition into this junk removal where you're kind of sorting through things and organizing things in a more physical and tangible way, it's just kind of cool to see the comparison and that parallel between the two industries. Like, to you, is that something that's kind of one of those things that really just lights your fire with the organization part of it, or is that just an accident?
No, I think it's like accomplishment is my drug. Like that's whatever it is, I try to accomplish it. I don't want to start if I can't end it in a good way. And helping people out is like literally like, hey, I have a problem. Here's a solution. Let's get it done. That's probably the get it done part. And it's over. And people are so stoked and happy. And they walked away and it's almost like the emotion goes, and then it can just relieve. It's not like here, no, here, 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 here. You know what I mean? Like it's like all in one fell swoop, and that's what really I think sets me apart from other people. The graphic design part, you know how it is. You're always trying to create for someone else, and you have the experience and the knowledge of what they should kind of go in a direction for and where they belong, and they're kind of like, well, I like this versus what makes sense. So that's why I know I connect with you very quickly because I'm like, okay, I'm an organized person. I designed with a purpose. I didn't just design for fun. So that's how I knew I could hand it off to you, knowingly that we could work together and make this happen, and really get you out of the dark and bring you into the light where other people can find you, because you do have a lot of talent, you do have a lot of skill that just you may not think you do or may not feel you're there yet, but you definitely do, and exposing that is going to get you with the right people. So
Oh, well, thank you so much. And honestly, I really want to talk a little bit about our project process as a whole because I think it's really important to bring to light that it's very important. The client needs to feel they're a part of the project. For us, it wasn't that I sat in a position where I said, I'm the designer and I know best and I'm not going to agree with any of your suggestions. When Dan and I had worked together, it was a very collaborative process. We kind of honestly worked together as designers. It was a really cool experience because he did have this graphic design background. And I know a lot of other designers are like, oh, a graphic designer from 10 years ago or whatever, like whoop-de-doo, here we go. But I didn't look at it that way. I was very excited to be able to collaborate with a fellow creative. We took each other's feedback and criticism so well. There were things that I agreed with that he had recommended. There were things I disagreed with. When I disagreed, he agreed with the disagreement. It was a very collaborative process. And I think that that's really important is as a designer, it can be easy to kind of sit in this position where you think that you know everything and you know best, and you're just going to design over your client because they don't know anything about design. But I think it's really important because your clients, they know their business better than anybody else. And that kind of knowledge is valuable and crucial to the entire design process. That has to come into the design in some way, shape, or form. And you have to be willing to let that in and open those doors to allow that to come into the project, because without it, you lose that special touch. That's the magic behind the designs. It really is. It's the soul and the passion of the business owner running their specific business that really sets them apart and makes them different. So it was just really cool.
aha moment when you're finally when you guys are driving together and you crush, it's like the diamond gets, that's how it rears its head, essentially.
Exactly. I mean, it really was such an awesome process, and it was so nice to be able to work with a fellow creative. It's not often that I get to do that, so it was really cool to kind of bounce back ideas back and forth. Dan even created some mock-ups of like quick ideas that he had in Photoshop, which was super cool. And instead of looking at it like, oh, my client's trying to design over me, like in a negative way, I was really excited because I am a visual person. And I looked at that and I saw that as him trying to help me, trying to get us closer to the end goal, which was the final design. You got to realize that you're working together. You're not working against each other. This is very much a team effort. And the more that you can kind of approach it from that perspective, that we're on the same side of this game, we're on the same team, it really does change a lot. Like, how did you feel about the overall? Have you worked with designers that kind of just wanted to design over you, or have you
Generally,
always had?
yeah, you're right. That's generally how the designers are. It's always a conflict. It's always, oh, well, I'm the designer. I'm the diva designer. No, look, I mean, if you're not open towards it, then you'll never work together well with anybody. Clients may want you to direct them where to go, but they also don't want a diva either because they don't feel heard. They want to know that you're listening to what they say and then you're computing it and saying. So when I was talking with you, I could tell that there are certain things you're just like, no, Dan, that's not a good idea. Or, but you're like, hey, okay, let's just keep it going on the path. We have step one and the end goal, and together we maneuvered there. And it wasn't in a negative way. It wasn't that, I'm the designer, you should listen to what I'm saying. It wasn't this. So the path to get to point A to point B, I know was going to be more streamlined because we did work well together in that sense. We both had that background and we're not overshadowing type people. Like, we're definitely goal oriented. You came to me because you wanted this design. I'm going to get you there, and I'm going to get there in a pleasant way possible. And, I think you handled that well and strong at it. And that to me is what I want to find in a designer. If I didn't have, or if anybody that I talk to now, I'm going to say, hey, listen, she's going to walk you through the process. You have to trust her because I know that she can get you there. It's just a matter of you have to stop putting your own things too, saying, well, I'm the client, I'm paying you. Don't do that either. That's not fair because you came to her for experience. That's kind of what I love the most about it. It was a full process all the way to the install with Matt, and we all worked together. We all challenged each other. The challenge I think was the most was the pillar thing, and you guys were like instantly no at first, but then I'm like, well, what if we design it like this, and it answers both questions. So not only did I open up your eyes, you open up, you know what I mean? Like we open each other's eyes up with the same goal and end up being awesome. So that's kind of why I would recommend you guys everywhere, anyone everywhere. So
I think that that was such a cool thing too, was the fact that it was constantly like we were challenging each other the entire time. Like whether it was you were trying to challenge me with the design or I was trying to challenge you with reaching some kind of like compromise, or you were trying to challenge Matt with the install, like the fact that all of us challenged each other equally, and it really went towards this goal of like personal growth all around, business growth all around. It was just such an awesome experience, and I'm so thankful. You kind of did push back a little bit, and that's a big thing is like for designers out there, I know the worst thing in the world is revisions, or the worst thing in the world is when the client doesn't approve it immediately. But I really started to change my perspective because when I first started in the design industry, like revisions were like, ugh, here we go. They want more changes. It was always such a negative. But when I started my business, I took the liberty to kind of look at that in a more positive light and think, when a revision happens, I was no longer saying, oh, they're not approving it on the first go. I started to look at it like, no, they're trying to push me to be better. And the first instance that I really saw this happen was when I did the Hams rebrand with the little pig mascot. When I pitched the initial version, the color contrast just was not good. It wasn't there all the way, and I wasn't able to see that until I went back into the file when they asked for that revision. But the color wasn't there, the eyes weren't great. It did need improvements. And after I went through and I made all the changes that my client was asking for, I sat back and I had this like whoa moment. Like the night and day difference between the two was so striking that I actually print that out and I take that with me to client meetings. Like when I met with CJ's Heating and Cooling, I took that picture of the revisions with Hams and the first iteration of the mascot and then the second, and I showed it to them and I said, do not be afraid to ask for changes. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to put a sour taste in my mouth. This helps me grow professionally, and I don't want you to hold anything back, while still being respectful towards your designer. But it's so important to communicate with your clients. You're not going to hurt my feelings with revisions. You're not going to hurt my feelings with feedback. This is a professional industry. This is my professional career. I have removed myself emotionally from this position, and I am trying to help us get to the best goal possible. It is so, so important. I can't stress that
Oh,
enough.
100%. And the biggest thing that I think I learned as a designer was always putting myself in someone else's shoes. So you think, again, everyone stands in their own, like, well, you can't see what I see, but we're visual people, so we already know how we accept ideas and stuff like that. Like if we can draw it out and say, look, it looks like this, where most people and clients, they don't know what they want. They just go, hey, I like the Nike, I like this brand or that brand. Can we make something of this? But that also is the way to help you too, is to help. Not everyone has that, was it the mind's eye, whatever. Like no one can see the vision, no one can see this. So they're trying to do the best they can to communicate that to you. And if you're not open to that, then you're never going to make it as a designer in the real world. So
Exactly.
for you to be able to do that, learn that early on is awesome. You know what I mean? Like
And
that's key.
yeah, and that is such a big thing is like my entire approach to design has pivoted from just trying to understand what the client is asking of me, and now I have transitioned my business model to educating the client how to communicate what they're after with me in the initial phase, and then we design. It's always this like give and take, the giver's gain, if you want to say that, from BNI, where it's kind of like I'm teaching them to communicate effectively with me so that way I can best understand their needs up front and have all of that extra time that I save from being misguided or misdirected and put that back into the design. So now you're getting a supercharged design instead of just a basic design because we wasted all that time trying to figure out where we're going. So I think that that's really important too, is educate your clients as much as you possibly can. They appreciate it and it makes your life a lot easier.
And they don't realize what they want. So by you saying, hey, look, before we do this, we have to do these 3 steps first. Like we have to do some planning before we go pick out colors. Like if you don't know what you look like, then what the colors don't matter at this point. So let's just don't skip too far ahead. So, and that's really what organization comes in. I was dubbed by my one buddy as the German creative. So I wasn't here just to paint a picture, make it look pretty. I had to have everything designed for a purpose, and that's kind of, you know, why I appreciate good designers from designers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with designers who just go out there and design and have a great time, but you're not looking to put yourself on a piece of art in the art museum. You're looking to do business and make money and prove to the world that what you're doing is helping them reach people that they're looking to reach, make more money, or advertise what their product is, and really get the name out for what they're doing. So
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is what is one of the biggest lessons that you learned early on in business, and how has your business evolved since day one?
well, I'm going to go backwards. My business has evolved. I started as a side hustle. I bought a truck and I was like, okay, well, what can a truck do for me? And then I said, well, it's snowing, so I can get a plow. So I bought a plow. The plow costs more than the truck. It's a pretty old truck, but that truck made me money. And then when spring came around, I'm like, okay, well, I can't plow and I don't want to cut grass because I got allergies. So I decided to get a trailer. And then from there, it turned into hauling things and turned into junk removal. So I just learned my lessons to just kind of like what you said earlier was like, just go with it and do it. I mean, you have to kind of take a little bit of risk to do something. And I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to find something that made me happy in the sense that, enjoyment, um, it's been really hard because no one in my life has been in, or none of my family members have been in business and or succeeded at anything like that. Like I was like the first one to go to college and complete it, first one to actually have a job in a field, and everyone's like the Dan guy. Oh yeah, Dan, what's Dan up to again? You know what I mean? But here I am. Like that. Like you have to take those shots, those risks to get to where you are. So that's been my hard process. Is I didn't have anyone just saying, "Hey Dan, take step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how you get there." Like I've been researching, I've been doing this, I've been taking my own beliefs and putting them all together and making it happen. So the question was the hard part. Oh, well, it actually got me more in tune with my community too, because I had one job where I priced out and I'm like, if I would have got that, I would have 15 yards, like a whole dumpster full of women's and children's clothing. And I'm like, I'm not gonna throw it away. Who do I go to? Who can handle that much? And then that got me connected with this person and then that person. And then like I just got connected with all people like Safe Harbor, and I've been supplying furniture for the Furniture Bank downtown Easton, and then it turns out that Project of Easton and all these other people are also benefiting from the furniture I drop off and the people that I get the stuff from. So like it just makes me more happier now that like I've been uncovering the community and realize I've been helping more people than I thought. So that was kind of like one of those benefits of the hard work paying off, not knowing. So but I definitely got connected with a lot of people. The hardest part has been just getting up and doing something like whatever it is. You get up and your mind's probably going with design. How can I help this customer visually? I'm trying to figure out how can I do the same job more efficiently if there is a way. So those are the constant business things that I have going on, and really just getting in the hands of people that they don't know they need me, but they can certainly call me and we'll get it done for them. That's kind of where the hardest part is, without spending too much money in advertising and stuff like that. Like you kind of just want my business has been growing brick by brick. So it's word of mouth. It's solid. I have a lot of Google reviews. They're not all Google reviews of last names of mine. So like these are real people, real customers, and real situations. And I'm all about the big bad wolf. I'm going to build a brick house, and you can try blowing all you want, but I stand behind what I believe in and just continue on. So
That's awesome. And I love to see the confidence. I really feel like in this game, in this business game, as a business owner, either you have confidence or you're not playing the game. It is really like, because I came from a position where I was very self conscious. I had such little confidence that I actually had teachers like pull me to the side in high school and college and things and ask me if everything was okay at home because I lacked confidence that badly. And everything was okay at home, but it was just to that degree they thought something was wrong. Right. So it was very tough kind of stepping into this business world and having to learn to grow that thick skin and have confidence and stand behind my word, not let, clients walk all over you and things like that. Because when you have respect for yourself, your clients will have respect for you. It's a give and gain type of scenario. So I think that that's really cool to kind of hear you talk about.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It really is about confidence. I mean, you can turn down the people. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. You don't want to work with a client or customer in that sense that goes, look, they're just going to bring you down. They're just trying to get, price for the best whatever. Like, come on, man. Like you bring so much to the table that you have to raise your standards and make sure that not raise your standards because they're worse or better or worse. They're just not in the same level as you. Like if you want someone that's in that level, then that's not me. I'm at this level and I hold myself there. So
Exactly. I'm very much like either you raise your standards to work with me or I'm not working with you. I got to the point where I refuse to lower my standards for anyone or anything. I've done it most of my life and it got me a whole lot of nowhere and a whole lot of heartbreak. It's a very tough thing to do. And after I raised my standards and I refused to lower them for anyone, my life changed. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today if I wasn't able to approach you in a very confident manner the first time I met you at that BNI mixer. Had I not stood my ground and held my beliefs and told you exactly what it is that I'm out here to achieve, we probably wouldn't have been working together, and it has a big, big impact, those little things.
And CJ's definitely they're I give them the kudos and the credit because they're the ones that got you there. I'm the one that helped to support it and like just kept calling it out. Really, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what it takes though. And that's what you want. You want positive business partners and friends and a group. We're here to bring each other up, not down. And you know what? Hey, even if we were two designers right now, we're not in competition. You have your style, I have my style. Like it's really just like, hey, how can we help each other get to the same point and help people? Everyone keeps saying, well, there's so many, there's a plethora of junk removal people. I'm like, there's a lot of landscapers out there too that like every block there's like another brand or somebody else cutting grass. There's so much grass to be cut. We're not really competition. Everyone does their own thing.
It is super important to surround yourself with like-minded people. And one of the biggest things that I saw early on in my business is I started to follow like a lot of these business pages and things like that, where it's just like general growth, motivational type of quotes and things like that. And one of the things I saw coming up the most was surrounding yourself with people that are going to push you to grow and being around, you are really a reflection of the people that you surround yourself with. So one of the most important things that I did was joining these networking groups. At first, it started with my local chamber of commerce, and then that evolved into joining a BNI chapter. But surrounding yourself with these people that are really going to push you to grow professionally is super, super important. It's really true. Like the difference in my business, I would not be in business if it weren't for joining the networking groups that I did. Like all of my clients, from you to CJ's to all of the clients that I'm working with right now, came from networking groups. And had I not had that, I wouldn't be paying bills right now. So it's just super, super important. Surround yourself with people that are going to force growth and really challenge your perspective, challenge you professionally. I can't speak enough for how important that is.
Oh yeah, and everyone's on a different level. So this person might not be able to help you, even though they might be in a different, whole different job title. Doesn't matter, man. They all struggled at some point. They all had issues, and then you start talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, hey, pull you aside and say, hey, I know how you can get through this," or "Hey, you're doing fine." I mean, just that hearing that from another business professional and that's already been through it is awesome. It's not your mom saying, "Oh, well, that picture looks nice, Jen. That's well, your mom's gonna tell you it's nice no matter if it looks like, Picasso or whatever. So hearing that from that business aspect is definitely way more. I mean, we love what our moms do, but like at the same time, like it's like it just means more in business that says, okay, this person really pulled me aside and told me this. So
Absolutely.
I think our I'm not big on the whole networking. I never was a high schooler. I mean, I was friends with everyone in high school. I was like the ace. I could be friends with any group, any whatever. But I was never about the politics and all that stuff like that. So, but like our BNI group really truly are, they're genuine. They're there to help. They all reach out. They want to see you succeed and not just say it. So that's why I'm in this group that I'm in. I believe it. I see it. I do it myself. Other groups I may not have worked out in another group, but this group I do. So, and it just I keep and I want to bring more like people in, like you and some other people that are just like, hey, we kind of need you. You know what I mean? Like you guys do a lot of, you guys have a lot of great to give, and we do too. So it's not just we're not just takers, we're givers.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing I love the most. Like even straight away, just that extra level of accountability, that extra thing to put into your schedule. It's so important to get yourself into a routine, be around those people that challenge your perspective, broaden your horizons, force you to grow, all that kind of stuff. It's super, super important. So, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you is what was it like when you first came to me for the trailer graphics? What kind of emotions were you experiencing and things like that?
I'm not big on an emotional kind of guy. No, I'm just kidding. I do have weird emotions, but like visually and stuff like that, like the confidence was when I first met you, you were timid and shy, but yet you had this confidence. So like it was kind of like this mixed bag of, all right, I know she's got something like hidden or something. I don't know. Like, but I knew the energy was going to be there from the minute we spoke. And then I just saw it happening, and then I looked you up and checked it out. Like, so, okay, she's got some really cool style. Like, like even if she's not my style, like from scratch, that's okay because I know that as a designer, I feel like she's at a higher level, and that's kind of where again, as a designer, giving on my hands off to the designer because I don't have that. I don't have the programs anymore. I have to trust that I'm able to give it off to the right people and right person. And I for surely felt that once we started getting going, the organization, the path, the walkthrough, the let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's stay here. And every step of the way, you kind of knew where you were, where we were going from there. Hands down, I would do it again and again. And I would recommend you to practically anyone in a position from any level, whether they know what they want to do or don't know what they want. I feel like you're their person. So
That's awesome. And that's really great to hear because I think the coolest thing for me about working with a fellow creative is as a creative, I understand how difficult it can be to give up the reins to a creative project. When you have the skill and you have that design background, I know how tough it is to kind of give up the reins and give it to somebody else and have to entrust quality is going to be there. So I just thought that it was so cool with your design background that you still reached out to a designer, you still trusted me with the project, and we got to work together so well. Like that for me was the big thing, was knowing that you trusted me enough to give up the reins. I know how hard that is, and I know what kind of level of like mental state that takes to be able to do. So it just really made me happy knowing that you felt comfortable and safe in my design hands, like it was just a really cool project and super
absolutely.
thankful for it.
And then as the small subtle compliment of my design logo, you're like, after working with this actually was built really well. Like that makes me happy too because like I still design my logo, I still do my own advertising. So to hear that from another designer is like, man, you have a really good design, like flexible logo to work with, and that was my purpose. And hearing that is also a huge plus. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of funny because the initial knee jerk reaction, I think, for every designer when we have to work with a logo that we didn't create,
yeah,
I think the knee jerk reaction immediately is like, as soon as you open the file, you're like, this is shit.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
shit,
When we worked this,
And
I'm like, I was kind of offended at first, but I'm like, all right, she's gonna ask that to everyone.
yeah, I know. So it was like I opened the file and I'm like, this is shit. And then I start picking it apart and working with it. And I pulled the icon away from like the text, and the text was all horizontal. Then I did the text stack, and everything just worked so well. It was so fluid. And it was like where most logos, when I get them from a client, it's not workable. Yours was, and it had that room to kind of grow and be pushed and move kind of like a lava lamp.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, it kind of caught me by surprise. I was like, all right, I have to take it back now. This isn't shit.
I'm glad because it met the requirement that I wanted it to do. It's all around. It's versatile. At first I was like, okay, well, I want everything to be exactly as is too. But I'm like, you know what? I'm giving this over to you, and you work with it. I'm okay if you break the rules a little bit because it still looks and reads the same. So it's not like by the book. Got to be exact.
Yeah, and I think that was the coolest thing, was the fact that even though we changed some things and we pushed some boundaries and we broke some rules, your brand recognition has not wavered. That has not been shaken. Your brand recognition is still there as much as possible. And, I really love that we didn't have to sacrifice that in order to break some rules. And the rules that were broken are actually going to cause that visual curiosity, that visual interest, that make people want to reach out. So I think it's just the whole project as a whole was so much fun to kind of push our creative thinking a little bit. So tell us a little bit about some reactions. Have people been talking about your trailer? Have you heard any reactions? What
Uh,
kind of attention is it getting?
I definitely look at my rear view, my side view, as everyone takes a second or third look at it. I haven't been able because it's so big and bulky. I don't see behind it, but I can't imagine that people aren't actually scanning my QR code for its intent. So the intent was designed to be It's my billboard. It's when I pull up to someone's house. It's also when I'm on the road. And how can people react when they're on the road? So your passengers scanning my car. Then it becomes a discussion in your car, and then you're like talking about, hey, babe, we got things we gotta get rid of, or hey, I got, we always want to get rid of this hot tub or whatever. So that's the thing. It's a strike up. Not only the design entices them to do something, they also talk about my business and go from there. And it's all because of just putting yourself in the shoes, having the right design, and billboarding, billboarding what I believe in. I intentionally ask my guy. I drive down intentionally 25th Street. I drive through 33, 248. I don't take the shortcuts home because I want to promote my trailer because I love it so much. So
That's awesome. That's so great to hear. And I'm really happy that it's kind of getting some reactions. You're noticing like people kind of breaking their neck when you're driving by. So that's always a really great thing to
I
hear.
park in the furthest part of I do call it billboarding. I literally park at the end of the block at like Home Depot or Giant or wherever, and I'm like, I always park out there so that everyone can see it as they drive by. So I can't imagine there's gonna be an accident or two. I just hope they don't hit my truck or trailer.
That's awesome though. Have you noticed any type of like significant increase in traffic or calls, or do you have
um,
any way to like track how many people are scanning your QR code?
I don't, but I created that page specifically with the QR code. I just don't have any parameters around it, or that's another part of my business where I'm the visual guy. I can design my own website, but I also now need to find someone who can help me get to where, like, what I want to do, collect email addresses or collect stuff so I can advertise to people. But yeah, I mean, if you go to if I look on Google Analytics, I can see that page. If I see that page, Britton, it's because that's how they got there. Uh,
Okay, I gotcha.
like that's kind of the point of that page. It's only accessible through the QR code, so that I know someone is checking it out. So
Oh, that's pretty neat. So then you can see like how many views that specific
yes,
page is getting in comparison to like other months.
yes, yep.
Oh, that's neat. You're gonna have to take a look at that data and see if
I
there's
know.
like a huge change since you got the graphics on the trailer and let me
Oh
know.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I had it on my truck, but my truck was in front, so you never got to really scan my truck. However, when I was in the grocery store at one point, I had an older couple go, I had to catch up to you and take a picture of your truck just so I can call you. I have some stuff, and I'm like, okay, so I know my stuff's working. I just didn't know how well it was working. So
Right. That's I love honestly one of my biggest things about business is I have been falling in love with the systems and efficiencies part of running a business.
mhm,
And I love that kind of stuff is like finding out where people found you and doing that kind of like how did you find me, lead acquisition, types of like data tracking, all that kind of stuff. I'm such a nerd for. I didn't think I was going to be initially when I started my business because I am not a numbers girly by any means. Like I suck at math. I'm an artist for a reason. So it was really weird, like getting into business and having to be around numbers a little bit more and tracking data and things like that. How many leads am I getting a year? How many are converting? How many aren't? The
yeah,
ones that aren't converting, why aren't they converting? Did they ghost me? Was it not a good fit? Were they out of budget?
yeah,
All these kind of things kind of push towards a better business future and being aware of your numbers, aware of your data, aware of your traffic and your audiences, and all that kind of stuff plays directly into the branding.
yeah.
You could kind of tweak and pivot. The branding kind of becomes like a tune on a car.
Oh
You're
yeah,
kind of tuning it a little bit every single time for your specific purpose, whatever number you're trying to hit on the drag strip. And I love branding for that kind of reason. I think it's the coolest thing. And being a part of the systems with the business, just, oh man, it's chef's kiss. I love it.
yeah. I'm with you on that. So the logos, logos used to be my favorite thing because that was like, okay, describe to me who do you want to like. The logos, hi, my name is Jen. Hi, my name is Dan. Hi, my name is whatever. Like if you can't answer with that visual of what it is, then you didn't do a good job. So one of my biggest things was you spend the people who are looking to do logos would spend more on their Starbucks coffee than they would their company logo, and that's not really fair. They're just like, well, what about the $99 guy? I'm like, yeah, but again, it's not. They're not putting that effort into your branding. So branding is definitely important. Numbers are definitely important too because they do go hand in hand. And you started out visual, but now you're starting to see, okay, well, how do I entice and show that my work is actually bringing them something like more numbers, higher numbers, and whether it's views or communication, right? Like back in our day of going to school was, well, you don't put fine print in an old person's home because they can't see that. Like it has to be big fonts and big, simple, clean stuff. So again, it comes down to put yourself in their shoes, I feel like you do that. I feel like you're definitely open to it. Those are the key points that you learn later in life, that it's not just about just coming up with a cool design. It's I have to you have to then put yourself in their shoes and go, okay, where are we at? Where are they at? Where can we go? And let's get there. And the numbers do reflect that. So,
I
it
think
is.
that that's a big thing is, people are no longer purchasing things. They are purchasing solutions to problems.
Yes.
You solve your customers' problems by helping them out with something that they don't necessarily even know how to get started doing.
Mhm.
And I really like to put myself in a position where I can show my clients, I'm not just making this prettier. This is going to grow your business in this particular way. With a proper vehicle design, you're going to see a certain percentage increase in traffic to a specific page on your website, or you're going to get a certain percentage more phone calls, or you're going to see an increase in revenue in this department. So, really trying to position yourself in a place where you can show you're solving business problems makes all of the difference. It's not just I'm out here to make a pretty design or a pretty picture. I'm not just painting pretty pictures on the computer. I'm offering smart business solutions that are going to help you in a certain regard, and to be able to show your clients that really does offer this totally different perspective. They are now so much more willing to invest in you. Like, oh my gosh, she has numbers to prove. That's why I want my one client to come on the podcast so bad, Roofing Army. We had a conversation a couple months after their rebrand, and they told me about how blown away that they were an 8-week old company and they were pulling $90,000 months because of the branding. And he said when he went to the local post office, he walked in and the postmaster was like, "Oh my gosh, are you Roofing Army?" Because he had a shirt on. And he was like, "I see your vans everywhere. They're so cool." And he told me, he was like, "Jen, we have one van." And right there, when he told me that, it was like, I knew that it was working. That is the impression you want to have. Like, even if
Yes.
you have one van, even if you have one trailer, if
Mhm.
you're giving the impression in your community that you have a fleet, you are winning at branding.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Absolutely. And it just makes you more present and more, hey, this is legit. This guy's not showing up in a busted, rusted truck, blah, blah, blah. Like, if he's committed, I'm committed. And that's what really comes down to. And I learned, early on, I had a roofing guy take, a big chunk of my money to put siding on my house, and we never followed through. And then, the whole virus happened, and then whole situation where I'm out now this money, and I'm had a loan out on it and all this other stuff. But I guess going in, there's a risk when you don't, hire the right guy, or a girl. So it's kind of like the branding didn't help. The branding wasn't there. It was just some guy. I know he did good work. He did quality work. He didn't have to promote himself. So I was like, okay, I'm in. But when you're out there looking, yeah, you want someone who's like legit. So if you're going to commit that much to your vehicle, you're going to commit that much to my brand or my house and my product or whatever it is that you're doing. So that's where it really connects with everyone.
That's an excellent point, honestly, and I never even looked at it that way. That is such a good way to look at that entire situation.
I mean, I feel like they did that with me as well. I started with an older truck. It was a very clean older truck. I mean, I had lettering on it. It wasn't like I just had some no-show slap on, what do you call them? The vinyls, or not the vinyls, the magnets. Like I literally legit spent like a chunk of money to make my truck stand out. I think the perceived value basically, right? So like the perceived value is higher. So if I go in there and say I'm going to charge you this money, I can raise it because people are going to like, okay, well again, he's more legit. He's an actual business. He's looking good. He shows up, did what he said he was going to do. So it brings you to a higher business level if you look good and do good service. And I feel like I already did the good service before. Now I have a really nice little trailer. I got a nice truck. Like now it's all together. And I feel like my business will take off just like that guy did because for that reason.
Absolutely. No, that's a really great way of explaining that. And I think it's really cool to see that from a client's perspective. I was so excited to have you on because not only have we worked together as client and designer, but you also do have this design background where you kind of understand it and you get it. So I was just super excited to kind of have you on, share some of your perspectives. One of the other things that I really wanted to ask you is how do you keep momentum up in your slow seasons? What kind of things are you doing? Are you spending more time on marketing and self growth with the business, or improving systems and promoting yourself? Like what kind of stuff keeps you going during your slow season?
Yes. all the above. I don't sit around and like actually like I'm having a down day and I'm just like, oh man, what am I doing? Am I doing everything right? Blah blah blah. I question myself all the time. That's just the nature of entrepreneur anyway, right? So like they're always thinking about something, the next level, the next move. Do you know when you start like I'm not at the level where I'm feeding families, right? So like I do have help, but I'm not at the point where I have to consistently hire somebody or have someone. So but I still treat it that way. You know, I'm always looking for what's the next best thing. Again, am I efficient? What you know, do we need to do this process anymore? Can we save money on bags? Which now that I have dump trailers, well, I use the bins and I don't do the bags anymore. So not only am I saving money, I'm not adding plastic to the plastic problem in our landfill. I can't help everyone from throwing things away, but I can certainly help how I get it there because then I'm not adding trash to the pile. I'm always thinking about that stuff. I'm always in my website. So okay, I'm not the most website. So now I have to learn how can I make my website better? Am I doing it right? Did I keyword it right? You know, uh, I've been working on that. I've been organizing it more so that like I show up in location. So it's not just junk removal, it's location, junk removal, and all the things I do. Take the time and effort to make extra pages that make more sense. You know, what do I want to rank on? I don't know. I'm kind of just throwing this all out sometimes like a spitball in the wall kind of thing. But I know it's all good and it's helping me. It's just a matter of it happens when it happens and when I have time. I can't do it all. So I have to reach out to people that like, hey, again, this like I don't have the programs and that not having the programs help me find you to allow me to release that ring. You know what I mean? Of saying, hey, here, can you do this for me? You know, I'm gonna help you along step every step of the way. But at the same time, I can release that and say, hey, you know, I can trust you to do it, or I'm better at reading people business wise now, like in my groups and stuff like that. Like, you know, I know that you mean something, you mean well to me, or you're really trying. So I think you can help me, or I can help you in this way. So it's a lot of give and take. It's learning, sacrificing, and having to face yourself when things aren't going well that you thought really were. You know, that's really hard. That's like, man, you know, I really believed in this, but it's not working for me, or it's not helping the business, or it's not helping people. You know, so
I think that that is huge. I think that that is such a big thing is this ability to let go what is no longer helping push you forward.
yeah,
And I think it's something really hard because especially for creatives, like I don't know how most creatives are, but I know at least I am very very precious to everything. You know, I have a hard time letting things go. I have a hard time releasing
mm-hmm.
control over certain parts of my life. And I think one of the biggest things as a business owner that I learned from the start is I had to stop being so precious about everything. You know, there are things that are going to go wrong, and where the old me would just sit on that and dwell on it for days or weeks or sometimes even months, and it would just totally make my mood awful, and it wouldn't let me do anything positive. It wouldn't let me push myself towards growth or anything like that, and I would just let that happen. I had to stop being so precious about everything and understand, you know, not everything is going to work out. And the things that don't work out, at least I can gain a lesson from it. And even with like client projects, I got to the point where when I was like starting out and I was undercharging, undercharging is tough. You do have to get out of that sooner rather than later. You have to know your worth. You have to come into your confidence or your business is not going to survive. But in year one, you're learning all that stuff. You're learning to be confident with yourself. You're learning all this kind of stuff. You're undercharging. And when I was undercharging, I said to myself, look, I know I'm undercharging right now, but if I can at least gain a skill from experiencing this project. If it was an illustration project where I had to do a mascot, I didn't know how to do mascots when I first started. So I undercharged and I learned that skill. And once I became confident in that skill, because I was undercharging, but I was gaining a skill, and there's value in gaining a skill. So you kind of have to understand that in your early years. But once I gain that skill, now I can charge more. Now I have that skill. Now that's something that is a business asset to me. So it's really important to remember those kinds of things and always be pushing yourself towards growth. And even when you can't make a monetary gain, as long as you're doing it where you're gaining a skill or you're gaining a lesson or you're gaining experience, you know, always make sure that what you're doing for your business is worthwhile in some way. It doesn't have to just be financial. It doesn't just have to be a skill, you know, just make sure whatever it is that you put into your business that you're actually like getting something out of it, you know.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. I've been on jobs where I'm like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I never done this. I never expected. I don't even know how to price this, but I can tell you what, I'm gonna do it for you because I don't, you know, I'm gonna do it for less, or we'll work together to get this out there so that you still get it done, we still get it, you know, a job, and you got, you walk away happy. So, but yeah, those are the jobs too where you underprice things, but you're willing to do it. And then,
Exactly. And then you kind of learn how that job went. You kind of understand, like, okay, this is how much I would charge.
yeah,
You're able to look at it from a different perspective once you've done it.
yeah. And if you don't want to do it, you know that too. And if you make that person happy, they're going to talk about you anyway because they're going to be like, hey, look, I understand you didn't want to do this job, but I mean, you still do other stuff. So I have a lot of friends over here, So it does travel through. Good karma goes out there, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So just the fact that you're willing to give them
Absolutely.
the time of day to even think about taking on the project, that right there is that's pretty golden because a lot of people don't even answer phone calls, let alone show up. So that's kind of why we get the jobs that we get. We show up and we communicate. So
Absolutely. It's so important. And the last thing that I wanted to ask you is if you didn't find yourself in this industry, what do you think you would be doing?
very good question. I don't know the answer to this because I probably would still be stuck at the old place where I was, only because of the situation I was in. I didn't want to make too many changes, right? I want to keep it as normal as possible. Since that change, I guess anything's possible. I don't know. I don't really know. I I'd certainly be helping someone in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure why I picked junk removal. It kind of just went that way. Honestly, I don't even think it's the junk removal part. When my dad and mom were younger, my mom's church, my dad used to go around with his pickup truck and go to Jersey, and someone would say they had some really cool furniture over there that's in good shape, so they wanted it. So then my dad would use his truck, go around and like get furniture for people from my mom's church. So that's kind of like my dad's way of giving back and helping people out and stuff like that. And he didn't realize how many people he helped over the years. Like it hasn't. I still don't think to this day he doesn't know the impact of how much good he did for people. So I feel like that's kind of where I stemmed from. My mom and my dad doing good for other people, but also realizing it's a business and how can we make this work. So I do try to make it win-win no matter what I do. I don't know if junk removal would have been it before, but it certainly is, and I'm kind of enjoying it, and people are loving it. So it's kind of going back to win-win.
That's awesome. I love to hear it, and I think that the entire community is happy that you are where you are in your career. And I think it's awesome to hear how much good you do for your community, the stuff that you do, and hyper focus on giving back to the community and being mindful of not adding junk to the pile and environmental types of things. I think it's so important because a lot of the junk removal guys, like you said, I know it was a joke, but like the three tooth, like rusted, broken
Awesome.
down pickup truck, and they're not really being mindful of like environmental stuff like you are. But I love that your logo represents that. I love that it's the two leaves and the yin yang and giving back and all that kind of stuff. I think it really does communicate who you are and what you're trying to achieve in your community effectively. And I'm so honored I was able to be the designer to put it on a wrap. Thank you for trusting me.
Absolutely.
And it came out awesome, and I can't wait to see what kind of statistics and data you can start to track and see if it's really making a difference out there.
Awesome. I hope you can show the picture on here too as part of your video clips.
I'll have to put it as the
Yeah,
thumbnail for the
yeah,
video.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, it's definitely it's the goal. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was or going to be. It's actually a lot better, and I'm so happy because it progressed. It worked. It wasn't what I wanted. It's better. That's the key.
That's honestly that's my golden rule. That's what I aim to achieve. So I'm happy to hear that I'm out here achieving that goal, and super excited to be able to be in connection with such an awesome fellow business owner, such an awesome client that helps to push me in all of the creative ways and really help grow professionally and creatively. So thank you so much for all of that. It's an honor to be your designer and to be able to bring your creative visions to life. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you on social media and online?
So Clean Working Space LLC. Let's see, Facebook mostly, Instagram, and www.cleanworkingspace.com. You'll see all the stuff that we do. It all intertwines and brings everybody together. So I am working with my community also. I'm working on a collab group right now where everyone has their own individual donation and their attempts, and I'm trying to collab everyone together so everyone knows who gets what, where it goes, so that we're not all doing the same thing. We're all kind of doing it very effectively. So getting that going, and that's going to be a task, but I feel like we can all do it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show, and I will see everybody in next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.